Mr. Hancock. I'll stop by in a week or so and see if you have signed copies, preferably one with my name attached." The urge to tell him that Dad had more important things to do crossed my mind, but I merely nodded and said, "I'll see what I can do," as I rang up the sale.
"Let me give you my address."
Before I could say anything, Hamish grabbed the pad of stationery and scribbled out his home address.
"Perhaps you could deliver the book when it comes in."
"We'll see." Hamish took the book and started to walk away. He paused by the stairs.
"I hope your father learns to respect his readers more. No matter how he tries to justify it, his delay is an insult to us all."
Eyes from all over the store locked on Hamish, and then turned to me, as if waiting for a biting response. Instead, I waved. "I'll let him know." And with that, Hamish Lauder tucked his book under his arm and marched from the store. I leaned back against the wall with a sigh. That sort of thing happened more often than I cared to admit. Having a famous father was nice and all, but sometimes people forgot that he's a person with an actual life with wants and needs. Downstairs, nearly every table had someone sitting at it, but there was currently no one else in line at the drink counter. It appeared as if the busy day was starting to slow, which was a good thing. Beth and Jeff would need breaks, and if we remained hopping, I wasn't sure two of us could handle both the upstairs and downstairs alone. Mason Lawyer was the only one available to call in if it came to that. My best friend and co-owner of Death by Coffee, and Mason's wife, Vicky Lawyer, was an actress in a local play and couldn't come in. And Lena Allison. A wave of melancholy washed through me. Lena had worked for us since we'd opened the place, but had recently left Pine Hills for college. I was glad she was chasing her dreams, but I did miss her and her dedication to her work. I opened my mouth to say something somber, but the cat bed next to me was empty. Vicky had taken trouble with her when she'd left earlier in the day, meaning there was no store cat to talk to when I got maudlin. I wasn't keen on talking to myself, especially since half the town already believed I was crazy, so I left my thoughts unuttered. The phone rang. I picked it up before the second ring, thankful to have someone to talk to, even if it might be someone calling to complain. "Death by Coffee, this is Krissy speaking. How may I—"
"Krissy Hancock."
The man's voice was quiet, as if he were whispering into the receiver. "Yes?" There was a pause where all I could hear was the man's breathing. The pause went on, and on, and on. "Is there something I can help you with?" The breathing continued. It wasn't heavy breathing like he was trying to weird me out or anything, just normal through-the-nose breathing. I glanced downstairs, but neither Jeff nor Beth was paying me any mind. Neither were any of the customers. The only other person upstairs with me was an elderly gentleman sitting in one of the chairs we kept for people who wanted to read. He had his head back, eyes closed, and a war novel lying open on his chest. I was cut off by a click, and the line went dead. I looked at the receiver as if it were somehow responsible for the strange call. It had come in on the store line, not my personal cell. I didn't know if that meant anything or not. I hung up the phone and then waited to see if the man would call back. It was entirely possible he'd been trying to speak, but something had gotten messed up and muted him. Of course, since I could still hear him breathing, it wasn't very likely. Maybe he'd forgotten what he'd wanted to say and he'd get back to me later. The door opened downstairs, and a man wearing a police uniform and hat walked through the door. He scanned the store, eyes going first behind the counter where Beth and Jeff worked, before passing over the 3 steps that led up to the bookstore, and finally onto me. A wide smile split his face, which showed off a pair of to-die-for dimples, before he headed my way. My heart fluttered, but I did my best to keep the pleasure off my face as Paul Dalton ascended the steps to join me at the counter. "I thought you were supposed to be working," I said, resisting the urge to throw myself at him. I still couldn't believe I'd gotten so lucky. Yet here he was, the man of my dreams, standing before me, blue eyes sparkling as he took me in.
"I am,"
he said, taking off his hat. He ran a hand through his sandy brown hair, which was just shy of too long. I wondered if it would turn into a sandy blonde if we were to run off to a beach somewhere and spend a few